The husband brought his deaf wife along to a critical business meeting with potential partners. After signing the contract, he stepped out of the office beaming with excitement. Then, his partners burst into loud laughter behind him. When they emerged, his wife skimmed the contract. Pointing to one clause with a trembling finger, she wiped the grin off his face in an instant. Laughter was the last thing on his mind. The moment he crossed the threshold of that sleek Chicago office with his wife, he never imagined the day would spiral into a devastating blow to their family. He'd been counting down to this meeting, preparing for weeks. Everything was supposed to go like clockwork. The deal promised a bright future for him and his family. His partners were already at the conference table, shuffling papers, when he gently motioned for his wife to sit in the corner. She gave him a quiet smile, her eyes warm. A woman who couldn't hear or speak but always sensed the room's mood through gestures and expressions. Her supportive gaze was his anchor, though he didn't yet realize it would soon be his lifeline. Just a year ago, he couldn't have pictured walking into a boardroom arm in arm with a woman he loved deeply but could barely communicate with verbally. She'd been deaf and mute since birth. He, on the other hand, grew up in a boisterous Midwest family in Springfield, Illinois, where arguments were loud, voices clashed, and emotions ran hot. Then she came along, calm, serene, understanding him through the slightest lip movement, a vibration in the floor, or a touch. He marveled at how she could read people without hearing their voices. He'd quickly learned the basics of American Sign Language, ASL, trying to share his thoughts, but even when he fumbled a sign, she got him with a single glance. That gave him unshakable confidence. No one in his life had ever needed him like she did, and her morning smiles brought him true happiness. At first, his family found it odd. His mom, a control freak from the suburbs, couldn't hide her skepticism. How will you handle serious decisions together? What about raising kids? But he stood firm. She was worth more than any doubts. When they got married, many sided with his mom. Some whispered behind her back that he was reckless, marrying a burden. But he saw no burden. His wife was vibrant, creative, and ran their household with ease. She noticed every detail, picking up the crux of conversations by reading lips, even when people stumbled over words. That's why he brought her to the meeting. His partners didn't need to know about her disability. She'd just sit quietly, unassuming. But he knew her presence gave him strength. He believed she silently fueled his resolve. The partners, hailing from a firm in St. Louis, pitched themselves as trustworthy, with big connections and access to global markets. They promised, "We'll build something huge together, crush the competition, and grow a multi-million-dollar company. You'll live on a whole new level." They explained his role, secure key contracts, sign a few agreements, and hand over part of his business's control. In return, they'd offer a partnership and wealth to secure his family for years. It sounded too good to pass up, especially since his small logistics firm in Naperville was struggling. Competition was fierce, profits were shrinking, and he was barely staying afloat. These partners, appearing out of nowhere, dangled a lifeline. The meeting started smoothly. The partners were polite, smiling, offering coffee. There were two of them, plus a slick attorney who brought a stack of documents. His wife sat off to the side, nearly invisible, but her eyes tracked every move, catching every word by reading lips. She glanced from the attorney to the partners, then to her husband, as if checking if he was okay. He was deep in the contract, discussing key terms. The partners brushed off his questions. "It's all standard. Don't sweat it." He pressed, but got the same reply. "Just formalities. No worries." By the end, they shook hands, signed the deal, and the attorney scooped up the papers, promising notarized copies soon. He looked at their grinning faces, feeling tired but triumphant. It was done. He believed a new chapter was beginning, years of hard work finally paying off. He'd become a co-founder of a thriving national firm. Cash would flow, and most importantly, he'd give his wife the life she deserved. When they planned for a child someday, no financial hurdles would stand in their way. They left the office. He let his wife step ahead, wrapping an arm around her, gazing into her eyes. She smiled, though her expression was hard to read. Did she sense what had happened? As they headed to the elevator, the partners lingered in the room with the attorney. Suddenly, a burst of laughter echoed from behind the door. He couldn't make out why they were laughing. His wife glanced back briefly, as if trying to read their lips, but the elevator doors closed. He shrugged it off, too drained to care. The day had been exhausting. Downstairs, he finally chuckled with relief. Want to tell her, "We did it." Knowing she couldn't hear, he freed a hand to sign quickly. It worked. "We signed. I'm so happy." Her reaction was quieter than he'd hoped. She smiled, but a flicker of worry crossed her face. He figured she was just tired from 3 hours of watching Dull Talks. Hugging her, he signed, "Want to grab dinner at a diner to celebrate?" She hesitated, then nodded. As they walked down the hall, that same loud laughter rang out behind them. The partners were leaving too. His wife turned, studying their faces, reading their lips. They didn't seem to realize she could hear them visually. They must have said something snide. Her grimace told him that, but she stayed silent, only squeezing his hand. Outside, one of the partners slapped his shoulder, tossing out, "Great job, buddy. We'll swing by your office soon." They hopped into their car and sped off. He and his wife headed to their parked SUV, him still buzzing with success, but her eyes were thoughtful. She knew he was thrilled, too caught up to dig into details. Yet she felt an urge to check the contract. While he'd signed, she'd caught stray words in the text. Something about irrevocable tied to guarantees that unsettled her. But the attorney kept distracting him, leaving no time to read closely. That's why her smile wasn't as bright or calm as his. That evening at their cozy Naperville home, as he sipped tea, she approached, signing that she wanted to see the contract. He shrugged. "I gave all the originals to the attorney. I got a few photocopies in a folder. Want those?" She nodded. He grabbed a thin packet from his home office and handed it over. The pages were signed but lacked final stamps, still legible. She scanned them quickly, flipping through. He watched, puzzled by her intensity. Hadn't he already vetted this? But as her brows furrowed and her gaze darkened, his stomach knotted. She pointed to a dense paragraph near the end, then to the clause's title, signing urgently. "This means you gave them control." She couldn't finish before he cut in. His ASL wasn't fluent enough for legal jargon, and with no interpreter, he struggled. She grabbed a pen, scribbling, "You signed away your majority stake. If anything goes wrong, they take everything." He snatched the paper, staring at the clause, but the legalese was murky. It mentioned risk allocation and a tangle of subclauses. Nothing screamed danger, but the wording felt slippery, making him uneasy. Maybe that's what the attorney was glossing over, clicking his pen to distract him. He rifled through the pages, finding the block with his initials. Reading the underlined phrase, a chill hit him. His wife signed, "Did you know? If you miss any payment, even temporarily, they seize your business." Can that be right? His heart sank. "No, wait. It's probably standard," he stammered, but as he read on, the truth dawned. The partners had baked in clauses that could strip his company away, leaving him with pennies, if that. The attorney had called it a safeguard against betrayal, but now it was clear the betrayal was theirs. They played him, banking on his trust. He clutched the paper, his wife watching his face. She trusted her instincts, spotting the masks people wear when they talk success. Now, her gut hadn't failed her. His pulse raced, thoughts spiraling. What did I sign? If the contract took effect, his family faced ruin. Their home was tied to the business, along with their equipment and assets. "There's got to be a way to undo this," he blurted, then froze, knowing she couldn't hear but would feel his despair. He grabbed his phone, frantically calling the partners. No answer. The attorney? Voicemail. Texts, emails, nothing. The night was sleepless. He cursed his haste, his failure to hire an independent lawyer, his blind trust in reliable people. His wife stayed by him, calming him with a touch to his shoulder. He noticed she wasn't sleeping either, jotting notes on paper, folding them away. When he asked what she was writing, she shook her head. Later, by morning, he declared, "I'm going to their downtown office. I'll demand a meeting." She insisted on coming, despite his protests. "You should rest," he signed, but her eyes were steely, and he relented. At the office, they met only perky receptionists. The partners were out on urgent business, back in a week. "The attorney? He's not on our staff. Try calling him," a receptionist said with wide eyes. His stomach churned. Everyone was polite but evasive. "Don't worry, it's normal. Just wait for them," they said, but he caught a smirk in their eyes. They knew he'd been saddled with all the risk. For days, he raged and worried, calling friends for advice. His new lawyer, hired in a panic, sighed over the contract. "It's a classic trap. They lock you into brutal terms, and you signed. Your only shot is proving they misled you, but that's tough. These guys aren't amateurs." He recalled the laughter his wife had heard. The partners had set him up from the start. A journalist buddy suggested going public, but that risked tanking his company's reputation further. Meanwhile, his parents, hearing the mess, panicked. His mom, once cold to his wife, suddenly pleaded with her, "Sweetheart, if you pick up anything from their gestures, tell us. We're all in this." His wife tried, but she lacked hard evidence. She caught snatches of their comments by lip reading, but it wasn't enough. One evening, she tapped his shoulder, signing, "Tomorrow, go to your warehouse. They'll be there." He didn't know how she knew, but she was certain. She had a knack for piecing together clues. News articles, overheard remarks, stray comments read on lips. From her hints, he gathered the partners were visiting his facility, acting like they already owned it. He decided to confront them face to face. The next morning, they arrived early at his warehouse in Joliet. Staff mentioned unexpected calls about restructuring. By 10 a.m., a car pulled up. The partners and their attorney stepped out, announcing, "Starting today, we're shaking up management. You'll stay on as a figurehead, but we call the shots." Furious, he snapped, "That's not what we agreed." One partner sneered, "Show me where it says otherwise. You signed it. That's business." The other added, "We're not pushing you out. You're still useful, but you've got no controlling stake." He trembled with helplessness, remembering how he'd trusted them. "Can we talk calmly? Maybe amend the terms?" he offered. The attorney shrugged. "Sue us if you want, but we've got friends in high places. Good luck." His employees stared confused. He felt humiliated, losing his company in front of everyone. His phone, which he'd pulled to record, was dead. His wife, seeing his despair, touched his hand, signing, "Hold on." But then one partner glanced at her and scoffed, "Tell your deaf lady to stay out of it. She's just here for show." He cackled, the same laugh in the office. The room froze. She didn't react, unfazed by their cruelty, but it lit a fire in her husband. He glared, but knew they didn't care. The partners retreated to a private room, demanding financial records. He stormed to his office, collapsing in his chair. His wife stood behind him. He pulled out the contract copies, groaning, "What now? How do we fix this?" He scribbled, "Is there a loophole?" She wrote back, "We need proof." Their words, their laughter, anything. It felt vague, but when his spirits sank, she signed, You didn't just give them your business. You want a home, kids. If we don't fight, we lose everything. He buried his face in his hands. Giving up meant letting these men destroy his life's work. The next day, he called an old friend, a no-nonsense lawyer known for winning tough cases. The lawyer listened, grimacing. It's bad, but we could argue they deceived you, hiding key terms. Every detail matters, especially if your wife's lip reading caught them plotting. Her testimony could be a game changer, but we need backup like security footage. Hope flickered. You think her account counts? He asked. Why not? Her disability could be an asset. Let's check for recordings. His wife, informed, nodded. I'll recount everything. They chased leads, requesting video from the meeting room, but the partner's firm claimed the cameras were down that day. Staff at the legal office stonewalled. Rumors spread among his team. Some pitted him, others gossiped. His parents were a mess, but even his mom, once dismissive of his wife, apologized for her past judgment. His wife smiled, brushing her mother-in-law's hair, signing, "Let's solve this together." Adding to the chaos, his dad's heart condition worsened, needing costly treatment. With the business at risk, their savings were on the line. The partners hinted they'd seize assets if he didn't comply, leaving him penniless. He considered caving, offering them profits to back off, but his wife shook her head firmly. She knew giving in would only embolden them. The deadline loomed, days until the partners could register the new company structure, locking him out. His lawyer warned, "I'll file objections, but without solid proof of fraud, the court won't halt it." Desperate, his wife led him to their laptop, scouring social media. She found one partner's profile where he'd bragged on a business forum about finding suckers for deals like theirs. He described distracting clients while slipping in harsh terms. "It's not direct evidence," the husband muttered, "but it's something." She pointed to a line. "Our lawyer keeps them focused on small talk. We never lie outright, but they can't challenge us legally." Reading it, he sat up. The partner had boasted about their scam. Could this help? He sent it to the lawyer, who said, "It's a start. We'll try to use it, but we need to verify the account." Time's tight. The partners kept pushing, threatening to fire his loyal staff and move operations to St. Louis. He stood at his office window, wringing his hands. "Why me?" His wife, nearby, froze, spotting the partners in the hall, whispering with their attorney. She edged closer, staying out of sight, reading their lips. They didn't know her hearing worked through her eyes. She caught one say, "Once it's registered, we grab his assets. Even the house can go up for auction if he fights." The attorney replied, "As long as he doesn't suspect." His wife's no threat. She's deaf. Her heart raced, but she couldn't record them. They left too fast. She rushed to her husband, signing and writing what she'd seen. He paled, storming into the hall, but they were gone. "We need to catch them saying it," he said. They tried setting up a fake meeting with staff to record the partners, but the men vanished, as if sensing trouble. The final day arrived. He and his lawyer raced to the Cook County registration office to block the deal, his wife begging to come. The lawyer agreed. She had insights to share. But at the office, they learned the partners had already filed everything at dawn. All that remained was a final form to hand over his company. "Ow," he shouted. "I didn't agree." The clerk explained. The contract he'd signed let the attorneys stamp seal the deal. The partners, there in person, taunted, sign the addendum for a tiny share or lose it all. It's airtight. Humiliated, he faced a grim choice. His wife, watching from afar, tried to read their lips, but they hid their mouths, learning from past slip-ups. Then, something unexpected happened. A woman with a badge, an economic crimes detective, entered with a plainclothes officer. They approached the partners, saying their attorney was under investigation for fraud, based on multiple complaints. As the partners stammered, The officers paused the registration. They turned to the husband. "What can you tell us about this lawyer?" He whispered, "Plenty," though he knew evidence was thin. His wife stepped up, writing furiously about what she'd seen and read on their lips. The detectives, amazed, questioned her closely. She answered clearly on paper. Another victim's complaint surfaced, bolstering their case. The registration was frozen. The partners panicked, yelling about false accusations, but the law required a review. He felt a wave of relief. Not victory, but a chance to fight. Over the next days, they gave statements, his wife detailing every lip-read conversation. Other victims emerged, strengthening the case. Sensing trouble, the partners offered a deal. "We'll void the worst clauses and restore your control. Just drop the fraud claims." Furious, he knew they had no honor, but saw a way to avoid a drawn-out battle. Consulting his wife, she wrote, "Your call, but don't let them trick us again. Demand ironclad terms." With his lawyer, they countered, "We'll settle if I keep my stake and you lose all control." Grudgingly, the partners agreed, fearing exposure of their shady past. A new meeting was set at a neutral notary's office in Evanston. They signed revised terms, restoring his ownership. The partners acted like it was a mix-up, but as the signing wrapped, a notary's assistant dropped a folder, papers scattering. His wife knelt to help, spotting a sheet titled Supplemental Amendment to Property Rights. In fine print, it allowed the partners to seize assets without notice. She froze. It was another trap, slipped into the stack for him to sign blindly. As the partners lunged for it, she clutched the paper. "Look," she signed, pointing to his signature, forged or copied from the old contract. It could have ruined them. He grabbed the sheet, stunned. The partners turned pale, scrambling to snatch it back. Chaos erupted. The notary, outraged, called security, shouting, "No scams in my office." The partners dropped their polite facade, yelling wildly. His wife stood firm, guarding the paper. Police arrived, documenting the scene. He explained, "My wife found it. She's deaf but sees everything." She detailed how the forged page was snuck in. The partners had no defense. They'd banked on her missing it. Days later, the original contract was voided, and the partners faced fraud charges. His wife's sharp eyes and lip reading had saved them. Her hearing through silence brought justice. That night, they sat on their couch, the ordeal finally over. He brewed tea, handed her a mug, and signed, "Thank you." His eyes brimmed with gratitude. She smiled back, her gaze saying, "The nightmare's done." Holding her close, he signed, "I'm sorry, I was so naive." She shook her head, "We're in this together." A shadow crossed her face, though. She wrote, "They're in custody, but they've got connections. Lock down the paperwork with the police." He nodded, knowing the fight wasn't fully over, but trusting her instincts. A week later, his lawyer confirmed the case was progressing, with no immediate threats. His mom, once skeptical, now treated his wife like a hero, admitting, "I was wrong to doubt you." His dad, recovering from treatment, thanked her warmly, knowing she'd feel his respect. The couple began dreaming again, a bigger home, kids. But a friend in business called, warning, "Those partners hired people to pressure you. They've got money and lawyers. Watch your back." Chilled, he told his wife. She shrugged, signing, "We've faced worse." "I'm not scared." Still, unease lingered. At work, an employee mentioned a stranger asking about his wife's visits to the office, as if probing. Her eyes flickered with worry, but she wrote, "I'll stay with your mom, help out. If there's danger, I'll signal. I won't back down in court." He agreed, though fear gnawed at him. Time passed, tense but quiet. The police moved slowly, but the day came when the case hit court. He'd testify as a victim, with a strong chance to reclaim full rights and brand the partners as frauds. Almost there, he signed to her. She smiled sadly, knowing court meant more stress, but they wouldn't quit. One partner called, voice smooth, let's settle. We'll pay you off, and your wife avoids scrutiny. No need for bad blood. It was another ploy. See you in court, he snapped, hanging up. His wife, reading his face, laid a hand on his shoulder. They were unbreakable. The trial drew a crowd. Reporters, entrepreneurs, onlookers. His wife, nervous, prepared written testimony, aided by an ASL interpreter. The partners, smug, claimed the accusations were fake. But evidence piled up. The forged amendment, their online boasts, and her lip-read accounts of their plotting. When she testified, detailing their whispered schemes, the judge leaned in. The forged signature was confirmed, and one partner slipped, admitting the rogue document might have been misfiled. The case turned. The court voided the contract, ordered the partners to pay costs, and launched a broader probe into their scams. He shook with relief. Reporters swarmed, but he looked to his wife, her smile grounding him. They were safe. No one could take their home now. At home, his family gathered. His mom teared up, hugging them. His dad embraced his wife, gratitude clear. She felt truly accepted, not as the deaf woman, but as family. He wanted to shout, "We won," but knew she valued sincerity over noise. He signed, "Thank you for saving me." She replied, "We're one family." His mom, for the first time, hugged her without tension, saying, "We're so proud, sweetheart." Though she couldn't hear, she felt the warmth. He'd always wanted to talk about kids, but hesitated, fearing doubts. Could she hear a baby's cry? Would his mom judge? Now, he knew their child would thrive with her silent love and his growing heart. That night, alone, he signed, "I thought I'd teach you my world, but you taught me to see truth through lies." She wrote, "I'll always be here. Just trust me, even when things seem too perfect." He held her, feeling true happiness, understanding without words. A month later, the partners were buried in investigations, their claims dead. He rebuilt his team, vetted new investors carefully, and leaned on his wife's sharp instincts. She became a fixture at the office, brewing coffee, sharing cookies, warming the vibe. No one dared call her a burden. She'd save the company. Competitors even nodded in respect. Reflecting, he recalled his joy leaving that first meeting, unaware of the partners' mocking laughter. He'd been blind to red flags, but her wary eyes had caught them. He'd learned his lesson. Planning ahead, she wrote, "Let's travel. Meet honest partners in new cities." He laughed, signing, "First, let's visit your folks." Her distant relatives in rural Wisconsin had doubted their marriage, but now she wanted to show off her resilient husband. They planned the trip post-trial, eager to prove their strength. On departure day, the court called. New evidence showed the partners' long history of scams. They'd likely face more charges, and he might testify again. It was a small price for justice. As her train pulled out, he signed, "No more delays." She grinned, ready for new horizons. In the train's rhythm, he thought back to meeting her at a small art gallery in Aurora. She hadn't noticed him at first, reading his lips only when he spoke. Her smile had hooked him. Now he couldn't imagine anyone else by his side. Her silent strength had outsmarted the partner's sneers, proving hearing wasn't everything. As the train rolled, he signed, "We're leaving this behind. I'm calm because you're with me." Her smile thanked fate for their shared victory. Months later, a lawyer friend shared that the partners faced sentencing, with compensation owed to him. "Let's build that house," he signed. She added, "In a garden, fruit trees." They laughed, dreaming big. One spring day, she handed him a tiny box with baby booties. Stunned, he signed, "A baby?" She nodded, placing his hand on her belly, writing, "We're parents." Joy and fear mixed, but her radiant eyes calmed him. "We'll manage," he signed. His parents, once doubtful, showered them with love, his mom apologizing for past fears. But one night, a detective called about new partner schemes, fake debts to harass them. His wife, pregnant, worried for their baby, but he shielded her, diving into paperwork. She refused to sit idle, reading his stress. Soon, the lawyer returned. The fake claims were crushed, and the partner's allies were fed up. "It's over," he signed. She exhaled, signing, "Now it's really done." They visited their half-built home outside Naperville, envisioning their child playing in the yard. He signed, "No more betrayals. I trust us first." She smiled, picturing their future. A final court notice confirmed the partners' fines and probation, their assets sold to repay victims. "We're free," she signed. At their apartment window, city noise below, their silence was peace, not empty, but full of love. He whispered, knowing she'd read his lips, "You're my friend, wife, protector, happiness." She traced, "I love you and our baby" on his palm. Then, a last twist. The partner's old attorney called, hinting at a hidden document to restart the fight. Furious, he met the man at a diner, where the attorney offered to lose the papers for cash. Before he could snap, undercover cops swooped in, catching the lawyer red-handed with forged sheets. Back home, he signed they got him. It's over for good. His wife hugged him tightly, her smile free of worry at last. Their focus turned to their baby, their home, their unbreakable bond. If anyone doubted a deaf woman's strength, he'd laugh and say, "Don't judge by what you hear. It's what's inside that counts." She felt his silent chuckle, her eyes soft. He mouthed, "You're my miracle." She signed one word, "Always."